Transformers: Rise of the Beast is directed by Stephen Caple Jr. He directed Creed 2, which I thought was a pretty decent movie. It's my least favorite of the Creed films, but I definitely think it's a well-made movie. And so I was excited to see what he can do with the Transformers film. Now that Michael Bay, he's done. He's not doing any more of these movies, and that makes me partially relieved and kind of sad because I grew up watching these Transformers movies directed by Michael Bay, and I know they're not good, but I always enjoyed them so much, even the bad ones. Like I get enjoyment out of Revenge of the Fallen and even Age of Extinction. No, they're not good movies, but I always got enjoyment out of them because it's something I grew up watching. And so now that Michael Bay's gone, we already had Bumblebee, which I thought was pretty good. And so I was curious to see, I was like, okay, based off the trailers, I thought this was like the mixture of the heart and soul of Bumblebee with more of the a little bit more of the Bayhem. I have now seen this movie. I said maybe this could be the best one. Maybe this could be a mediocre one. Think this is a middle of the road Transformers movie, to be completely honest. It never quite lived up to the Michael Bay action nor the visuals, but it had a little bit less of a dumber story. I mean, the story was still kind of dumb, and the second act of the movie becomes kind of like a adventure movie with Transformers in it. We have new characters here with humans, and these might be the best batch of humans we had. I mean, I know he wasn't perfect, but I will have a soft spot for Sam Witwicky with Shia LaBeouf and his parents. Those will make me laugh always. I know they were eye-rolling inducing to some, but they'll make me laugh. Mark Wahlberg was not very good in the other two movies, but so now we have Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback leading this film, and I thought they did a solid job. I wasn't like blown away by anything they did, but I was surprised a little bit by how much I cared at the end of the movie. But at the same time, I do want to see Transformers stuff, and this movie does deliver for the most part on that. I will say I do feel a little disappointed when it comes to the explosions and the action. I mean, yes, you definitely get that in the third act, but it's never shot or told in that grand Michael Bay way that we got from the other films. And I hate playing the compare game. It's just we had 5 Transformers movies back to back to back to back. Not all of them are good, and yes, this is better than Age of Extinction. This has been better than Revenge of the Fallen and Last Night. Part of me wants to see that big kaboom style that Michael Bay gave, and this movie didn't do that. But it did give new characters that I did enjoy, a new Transformer voiced by Pete Davidson, which I quite liked. And another thing about this movie, I don't think all the lead humor landed. I thought maybe a solid 50% did, and 50% didn't. Particularly with the Pete Davidson's character, half of his jokes landed, half of his jokes didn't. But at the same time, his character's kind of meant to be a little annoying, so I think it just kind of worked out that way. It's just mostly the character. I love Optimus Prime. Like, when I was a child, I loved Optimus Prime to death. Actually, I couldn't say his name right as a kid. I pronounced him as Optimus Crime. Yeah, I said that. Optimus did his decent role in his movie. I just thought it was just fairly basic stuff. I don't think this was written by this other writers of the Transformers movies, like, and for good and for worse, because I could tell it really felt like someone was writing the Optimus Prime versus Optimus Prime speaking. It definitely felt like at many moments that they were, just kind of writing Optimus Prime rather than I'm watching the character. I will say the score from the first couple films I love. I think the Transformers scores are fantastic, and this movie didn't really have much of score to offer besides the ending. They bring back the original Transformers theme at the very, very end of the movie, and besides that, it's not brought up once. And I hate when movies do that. It's like they bring back the original music at the end of the movie, and I'm like, we wanted that the entire time, but you're now just doing it at the end to leave it on a good note when you knew you had this music the entire film. You could have just used it. Small nitpick, but it's there. The CGI in this movie, yikes. There is a character voiced by Michelle Yeoh, and she has like a lot of feathers on her. It's like a bird-like transformer, and the feathers did not look real. There's actually quite a few shots of her that just kind of pull me out of the movie. I just think it showed the most on her character because of the amount of detail that would be required to believe that. Because all the other characters, you can I feel like CGI on metal and blah 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 would be easier versus like bird feathers, detailed stuff, and there it really, really showed. And towards the end of the movie, when Anthony Ramos, you see it in the trailer, he gets in the action a little bit, and then you get some how do I say this? You get some Paul Atreides in Dune when it comes to his mask, and it's even worse. Or Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever. It's just that I don't know. It must be really difficult to CGI a face into a mask because they the last couple movies I've seen do it just couldn't do it right, and this movie is the same thing. I just wish this movie had a little bit more visual flair and style to the camera because it's what I'm used to seeing with these Transformers films. And I hate to play the compare game because overall, this was an okay movie. It was an okay Transformer movie with okay visuals, okay performances, okay everything. Was the story good? No, it was just kind of all over the place in a globe-trotting adventure. But that's what Transformer movies are. They've always been that. And so I don't really feel like I complain that much because that's what Transformers movies are. So where I had to complain is the action feels like a little underwhelming. And the action does get crazy. There's moments at the end where it does get really bonkers, and the third act you tend to have a little bit more fun with that. It just doesn't compare, and it's visually flat. It feels uninspired and almost factory made. Sadly, I just wish I liked this movie more because I've watched these Transformers movies my entire life, but I still enjoyed it. It passed the time. The best thing I can actually say about this movie is that I don't know how long it is, but it went by really, really quick. I thought it was a very passable, fun time to watch with its issues. It does not hold up when I feel like I'm comparing growing up with these Bay films. Overall, it was fun, harmless. I don't think it was necessarily bad. It just kind of feels like a movie I'm going to forget in a couple of days. And Transformers has never been that for me. Even if they're horrible, I've always remembered them either because of how bad they are or how good they looked. And sadly, this movie wasn't horrible and it didn't look amazing either. It was just kind of a middle of the road thing that I feel like I'm going to forget. I'm going to give Transformers Rise of the Beast a 6.1 out of 10. It's a passable time. You can go ahead, you can go watch it, you can enjoy it. It's a one-time watch. I don't really see myself going back to this movie like I go back to the crappy Michael Bay movies, just because I go to those movies because I want to see nice CGI. I want to utilize my 4K 75-inch TV. And I don't feel like this movie will do that because the plot is almost just as dumb, not quite as dumb as the other films. I know I've been spending a lot of this video comparing, and I don't like that I did that, and I feel bad. It's just kind of how I assess this movie. Like, it's a good popcorn flick for kids, but at the same time, when you compare it to what's before, it doesn't hold up, and that's why I'm giving it a generous 6.1. So anyway, comment down below what you guys thought of Transformers: The Rise of the Beast. Do you think this was a step in the right direction? Do you think this was a step in the wrong direction? Do you just think this step wasn't necessary? Personally, I just think we should have let it die with Last Night and give it even a longer time. And I will also say, the ending to this movie, I did not see that coming. It is the last thing you'll ever guess. I won't say a word, but I'll just say it had me Googling things, thinking if something that they did was like possible or not, because they do something here that is kind of crazy. And most I'll say is that 5-year-old me would have died if what they set up is happening. So yeah. Anyway, comment down below what you guys thought. Like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that. And adios.